Hello and welcome to the Blue Monday podcast. Now in our 17th season, looking into the exciting happenings of Ipswich Town Football Club. My name is Benjamin Bloom. You're tuned in to the flagship show, available each and every Monday on video or audio. So, for a sometimes irreverent, always informative hour or more of football conversation, make your Monday a Blue Monday. Dave, how much prep have you done?
I've done none. I think I said to you before, I've done none for the first time in 5 seasons. Done nothing. I've got nothing. I've got a lot to say, but I've got no prep. Nothing.
Nice.
Do you know
Richard
why?
Woodward, this is going to be an entertaining show that people should not switch off, knowing that we're going to be talking about a 0-0 and no doubt depressed again.
What's twice as much as naught? I've done that as much prep as well.
Well, I have a script and a running order, which will follow. And sadly, Dave, because I'm all hyper, you're going to have to talk about a couple of people dying to begin with, because we lost Len Fletcher. And Len Fletcher, I must admit, wonderful, because he was involved in the dementia support that my mother has gone to at the football club. And of course, Frank Worthington as well. And you've spoken about the best goal you've ever seen against Ipswich. Can you talk a bit about those two, Dave? Yeah,
Len Fletcher. Len Fletcher used to pop up occasionally. And when me and Stat did the old school, town games. Yeah, Len Fletcher often popped up. And I think I believe he's right. He was the oldest surviving Town player until he unfortunately passed last week. So, yeah, no, desperately sad. And Frank Worthington. What an absolute character! What a player, but what a character! What an absolute character!
That goal has been doing the rounds. Richard, I retweeted, and I put the best goal I ever saw was by Leighton Baines, but everyone tells me this is the best goal ever scored, and you kind of wear it as a badge of honour in the end, don't you?
The thing is, it's who he's mugged off to score the goal, isn't it? You got is it Osman in there?
It's Osman and Butcher.
It's over Butcher's head, and the referee applauds as he's running back, which I think is brilliant. Social media the outrage mob would be fire him. He can never work again. Lock him up and throw away the key now, wouldn't they? But I thought it was brilliant, Dave.
And two very different goals. You're right about Leighton Baines. Leighton Baines probably, one of the best. I once saw Charlie George score a special goal at Portman Road, but the Leighton Baines strike was just something else. But it was. You put it in context, and I think Johnny Vaughan. I think Jordan told me yesterday he was listening to Johnny Vaughan's show Saturday morning. Whether it's a loose, I think it's Radio X he's on or something he's on now. And he even described Frank Worthington said about the goal, and even Johnny Vaughan said. But to put it in context, whoever he's speaking to. It was against Ipswich Town, and he said, "Look, let me tell you now, it's not. We'll get onto this. It's not Ipswich Town as we know them now. This was Ipswich Town back then." And he flicked that over Russell Osman, but obviously more well known to the greater good is Terry Butcher because of his England, because of his England career. And he said, "Yeah, they weren't no mugs, but what an absolute goal and just a great player." And I saw him several times at Portman Road, probably for Leicester, I guess, Birmingham. So it was just worth going down there just to watch him warm up with the ball. So he would come up, as they would back in the day, there'd be no pre-match warm-ups as we know now. They'd come out with 3 or 4 footballs like 5-10 minutes before the start of the game.
I remember doing that.
And it was just an education watching him warm up with the ball because he could do stuff that...
Dave, I remember doing that with Georgie Kinclardsey. It would have been 96 or something. Yeah, did no running, Rich, in the warm-up. No. I'm sure I've told this story before. Just kept the ball up for about 20 minutes, but there you go. Very, very sad news. So Len Fletcher and Frank Worthington.
Can I ask a really brief question?
Go ahead.
Dave, if you don't know the answer, that's fine. TWTD described Len Fletcher as a wing half. What's a wing half? Just for the
wing half, I would say sort of centre mid, sort of centre left, right midfield. Okay. Yeah.
We're talking more about wings in a minute. If I can preface that. Richard, we're going to be talking a lot about housekeeping in the next month or two as well. Elkan Baggott has gone off to Kings Lynn on loan. Brett McGavin has been recalled from Ayr. Obviously, there's the Flynn Downs injury. Just quickly, I know this is going to be moving a lot between now and the end of the season. Baggott, where do you see things progressing with him? With the loan and with next season, and do we see McGavin on the pitch at any point?
I'd quite like to see McGavin on the pitch at some point. I was bemoaning the lack of presence or at least a holding midfielder in the right position there in the absence of Downs, and I don't think Scouse is really up for every match either. So I'd quite like to see McGavin back, and it's a shame that loan didn't really work out. It sounds like Ndaba's worked out quite well. He's at Ayr as well, isn't he? But I think he's picked up an injury. And as for Baggett, some useful experience that he's probably not going to get with our under 23s or under 18s. And I think there's whether Cook, Mikey's show with the guys from Wigan and Pompey was really eye-opening about Cook's use of kids or not. And I wonder whether they're, because of the hype around Baggett, and I don't know whether that's because of the social media or what have you, I think there might be some pressure to give him more first-team opportunities next season if we want him to stick around. So I wouldn't be surprised to see more of him, maybe starting in the Cups, as he has been in the EFL Trophy, maybe the Carabao and FA Cup. But
well, Richard,
we'll talk about the squad, aren't we?
Yeah, not to preempt what you two are going to say in this show, but I suspect a theme of this show is going to be players and what they're going to be doing moving forward, isn't it? But there we go. David, what a debut it was for Barry Cotter, but he's done. No contract offer was going to be forthcoming, and they've let him go. And we all remember the game against Barnsley and the 3-5-2, and he's playing wing back. And then, of course, everyone's into it, and Mick being Mick decides probably 10 minutes earlier than was actually necessary just to wind everybody up a bit more. He's going to pull them off, pull Cotter off. So people don't like it when I say that. They giggle and do sexual innuendos when I use that terminology. Take him off the pitch, Richard, and substitute him. What went wrong for Barry Cotter after that brilliant debut?
I just don't know. I mean, he seemed to just never sort of barely figured it. I'm not sure I saw him play again. I think he may have played against... Did he not play against Coventry in that really, really crap cup replay?
Was he subbed at half-time in that one, Dave?
I believe he was.
Scored in a penalty shootout at Posh.
Oh, yes, he
didn't
did.
he?
At Peterborough?
Yeah.
Peterborough, was it? I believe.
Yep.
I don't know. He's like a revelation. That game against Barnsley, he was like an absolute revelation. He was like Cafu for 45 minutes, and then Mick gave the usual Mick. Well, we had to take him off. He was goosed. The usual Mick goosed adjective. And it's just a shame because you'd have thought it'd have been good enough to do a job in League One, but it just never got the opportunity. We don't see the bigger picture. We don't see him in training. We don't see him. Whether it was an attitude thing or whatever it was, or maybe he was even, I don't know, homesick. You just don't know. But it's just a shame because he certainly, on that first showing alone, he certainly looked promising. And thinking back to that Coventry game, Rich, I think you're right. He did go off at half time, but I mean, that could have been one of 11, to be fair. So now I think it's just a shame that it just hasn't worked out for him, really. Because he had a good physique. From what I saw, he was quick, good delivery. And we thought, we really thought we'd found a player there, but just didn't work out.
We generally ask Joe when it comes to youth players and whether their deal's going to get renewed or not. And Joe seemed to think that he had got a good attitude and had acquitted himself well. I think I saw him in the under 23s a couple of seasons ago. I went to played Cov at the Rico, and I went and watched that. And I think he ended up playing centre back, and he was fine. He didn't stand out or anything like that. But given we've had real issues with finding a right back, I just find it weird that he's not been given more of an opportunity. And Andy Warren, I think, on Kings Langley EATT, wouldn't be surprised. He says if he ends up in League 2 or League 1 and makes a career of it. So it's always frustrating when that happens, but. Paul Cook, I think, has got a few difficult decisions and maybe some easy ones coming up, and this is the first domino, isn't it?
Richard, I think a lot of people
got a lot of easy ones.
I think a lot of people will not be disappointed to already see the culling, so to speak, beginning. Again, that's going to be a theme of this show, I suspect. Paul Cook quoted this week, Rich, saying, "Going forward, I'm screaming for lads to say to me." Shall I try and do it like Paul Cook and kind of jump around like Stevie Wonder
with a coffee, big coffee?
Screaming for the lads to say to me, "I want to be here in the future. I want to be part of the success story." And I think going forward, we will start offering contracts out. And I'm sure, as you can imagine, there will be other players leaving the club 100%. Now, we don't want to get into rumour and innuendo, and this has not been reported by any particular source. But there's been lots of stuff coming out. And Richard, the the narrative this week was this is the first week that Cook has got the players for an entire week, and this is going to be great, and he's going to get into them, and it's going to be fantastic. And then by Wednesday, we're hearing odd rumours coming out about training ground catering not being utilised because, and again, we'll say as a podcast, these are rumours and they may or may not be true, and I'll leave it at that. But what's going on?
It's a bit of a mess, isn't it? The trouble is, I think quite a lot of stuff is coming home to roost now, isn't it? And a lot of people, I mean, it's quite revisionist, and now looking at what Hurst thought he needed to do back when he was appointed, and it feels like it's the same kind of
just been deferred.
The purging fire that was needed perhaps then is going to happen now, but you've got to feel sorry for Paul Cook. I mean, God, I hope he sticks around because it must have been really frustrating. And we've talked about fitness on the pod for months, and the situation with Jim Henry. We've talked about the organisation and all that, and the pattern of play. And as I said,
that's been 2 years. Yeah. Moaning about the pattern of play. God.
Exactly right. And as I said on Suffolk on Saturday night, that stuff doesn't click overnight. I think the big problem and the hope that we all had was that the players out of contract and the players who are still going to be around next season, you kind of thought this is the week to show the new boss what you've got. And everyone appears to have fallen at the first hurdle. I think if those rumours to have been true, the only person who was pushing to stick around for extra training was Thomas Holy. So I just feel that it just reinforces the narrative that we're going to end up talking about, that why would you bother? If these players can't, fitness is one thing. You can't magic fitness out of thin air, but aptitude, attitude, commitment and endeavour, these are things that have seriously lacked over the last few years. And it feels like Cook has found out that that's the case. And I don't know how he fixes it though, Ben or Dave. I don't know what that he's got another week, isn't he, this week? But what's going to be massively different?
Dave, you take that's a good segue. What's going to be different in training this week than we imagined? And we're painting the worst case scenario of some training that's the standards.
I just don't know. View, Dave? I really don't know. You look at the fitness levels and I seem to agree, they just don't look, a lot of players at 60, 70, 80 minutes are blowing, it seems to me. I mean, Norwood always does anyway. I mean, it's just his play, but other players just don't seem to be on it, just don't seem to be up for it. I mean, these are players, a lot of these players are out of contract. You think they're playing for their jobs, aren't they? Their livelihood, for Christ's sake. Surely they've got to show they want it, show they're good enough, but it just doesn't seem there. Just nothing there at all. No identity, no shape, no endeavour, as Rich said. It's a concern. It's a real concern for me. Absolutely.
Did you watch the video the club put out where they just showed Paul Cook for training? I think it went out on Wednesday. Really good. I mean, if again, the usual stuff when you lose 2 on the bounce and Danny Cowley's 1-2 on the bounce of Pompey, people start pointing fingers at Cook. But the more I hear from Cook, the more I see of Paul Cook, the more I'm certain that he's the right man for the job. He sticks around. But
Rich, I just think you've got to write this. You got to write this season off. Just write it off. We're not going to get in the playoffs. We're not good enough to get in the playoffs. We are miles off it, absolutely miles off. And it pains me to say it because we're a very average, I think, League One team. I think the squad has been. Yes, we've got the best squad. Yes, we've got the most technical players. I'm not even sure we have. I don't think we have. I really don't think we have, as it's panned out. When we start the season, we just flatter to deceive, don't we? And yeah, there needs to be a massive clear out in the summer, which no doubt there will be with these players out of contract. Hopefully, he'll be given some, the funds to get his players in, his type of players in, and players with the right attitude. And players that are going to play and bust the gut for the club, because they're certainly not at the moment. That's what really disappoints me. And it can only happen to us that we just. I mean, it was a unique situation where we just won 3 on the spin, and the new manager comes in. I mean, that's just frankly bizarre, isn't it? It just doesn't happen like that. But yeah, you would hope 6 games in, are we, that you'd get some sort of reaction, and we really haven't. We really haven't.
Watch that video though. he's put out kind of, I don't know what you call them, kind of fluorescent railings or points on the pitch and he's telling people where to stand. He's pausing the game and saying, Kane, you need to be here, and he's telling Bishop when to press and when to not to.
Fine.
And that's fundamentals, right?
Yeah.
If he is having to coach fundamentals of how to play a 4-2-3-1, which Lambert has been playing a variation of for most of his time, at least since the start of past October. That's a problem, isn't it?
I think you've accidentally happened on the word there. It's fundamentals, isn't it? And I think we do a lot of analysis talking about ownership and money and sort of wage ceilings and tactics and all of this nonsense. But look, we're going to get into that as it pertains to the Wigan game. But first of all, can anybody guess what I had for dinner on Friday night?
Chicken.
I had some wonderful favourite chicken, and we are partnered until the end of the season, David and Richard, by favourite chicken. Now, Richard, you haven't had any yet. Now, that's not because favourite chicken are being selfish. That's because you're out on a limb in Warwick.
I have to go to Wolverhampton to get some.
Well, I have to go across to Milton Keynes, but that's
20%.
That's less of a distance. And you mentioned 20% because that mine was free because we're bigwigs and all of that good stuff. But you can get some chicken for 20% off using the discount code BM20 from the newly opened. It's delivery only in Ipswich. Favourite chicken. Dave, me and my good lady had some favourite chicken. I know you and your family did last week. We did, and this is why I'm slightly sort of grumpy tonight because I was expecting some more today, to be quite frankly, and that made the Portsmouth defeat last week all the more sort of palatable, really. But crap performance and no chicken this week. It was really good. I really enjoyed it. She had the double ringer meal. That's right, the double ringer meal with some onion rings inside your chicken burger. And I had a chicken favourite selection. Very, very good. Really thoroughly enjoyed it. So if you're going to be watching some football on iFollow, 90 seconds behind what's actually happening, favourite chicken. It's only the Ipswich store. So if you're like Richard in Warwick or like me up in Bedfordshire or what have you. Strangely, Dave was in range of delivery and Joe was outside of range, and they only live minutes apart. But favourite chicken, you can get I've got the app here on my phone. Download the app, and when you go into the checkout, BM20 is the code. And look, it's probably the most joyous thing about the pod, me talking about some lovely fried chicken that I had, because we're about to talk about, Richard, Wigan 0, Ipswich 0. And dare I say, Richard, you and I drove up together and sat together the last time Ipswich played Wigan, with Ipswich clinging on by their fingernails to championship survival. And
a good performance from Will Keane that day as well before he got injured.
Until he got crocked, wasn't it? Yeah, dearie me. So off we go to Wigan for the Paul Cook, Will Keane derby. And strange bit of synchronicity here, Dave, because we've now played exactly the same amount of games as when everything got cancelled last season, and we're in exactly the same position in 11th. We've got a few more points, but we're in the same position. So off we go to Wigan, who obviously have been absolutely pillaged by the administration last season and their team being completely taken away. Every single... Lee Evans, I think, was on loan and has kind of gone there full-time since, but otherwise an entirely new team for Wigan. So away we go to a team with a week's preparation, who are functioning down there in the bottom four in the division. That's the setup. Who wants to talk about the team? Let me read it out. It was in goal, Holly, and the return of Kane Vincent-Young at right back. A good long 8, 9, 10, 30 game run for him in the team coming up. I'm sure we're all excited about. We'll review that when we get to the second half. But Ward is the left back. Nsiala and Chambers moves across to centre back. The double pivot is Dazelle and Bishop. Edwards right, Sears left, Judge 10, Norwood in the number 9 position. Dave, I like the look of that. Kane Vincent-Young returning.
Yeah, no, all happy. I mean, there was sort of thought that he was toying with the idea of, it was in the press. Is he going to start? Is he not? Is he going to start? Perhaps his hand was forced somewhat, obviously, by Wilson's injury. I think the biggest surprise there for everybody was out of nowhere. Suddenly, Freddie Sears suddenly appears almost out of nowhere after his last, what was that, half-hour cameo against
two
Gillingham,
assists, three assists.
Two assists, which hadn't gone so well. So, I mean, that was a bit of a shock. Obviously, Bennett's dropped out and Sears coming in. Yeah. And the other noteworthy thing, I suppose, Hawkins was back on the bench, wasn't he?
Yes. Richard, you can imagine in a week of potentially bad training that at least Sears would have probably had enough professionalism to look good in training compared to the other things we're hearing.
Yeah, that's got to be the conclusion. And I think the average age of that team is 29.4. I don't think I know it's written down in front of me, where Wigan's is a little less experienced at 25.8. So maybe that's a thought. But I was thinking that Paul Cook likes mobility on the wings, and I'm not sure really he had that. But players Edwards and Sears can switch. They didn't really do that too much, but I was surprised to see Sears and Dave. He didn't cover himself in glory really much.
And again, for me, Kenlock nowhere to be seen in the squad. I feel for someone like Kenlock, who I thought he'd had a good run in the team, had some good games. They'd won, fairly average game against, I think it was Gillingham, wasn't it? One fairly average game against Gillingham, but then so did the vast majority. And now nowhere, seemingly, binned off, nowhere to be seen, and replaced by Ward, which for me is just a backward step, isn't it?
Someone reminded me, Dave, we used to call Steve Evans the new romantic. Do you remember that?
Yes, of course we did. Yeah, the eyeliner, wasn't it? The eyeliner. Yeah,
I'd forgotten. Yeah. Richard, the depth of our comedy is so broad that I even forget some of the excellent jokes.
We did. He was like he was the sixth largest member of Ultravox, apparently. But I was surprised as everyone else to see Sears back in there. But as you said, maybe unlike some of the others, he perhaps trained well.
Here is the Wigan team: Jones in goal, Derikwa, who I saw tear us a new one for Forest at the City Ground circa December 2018. Robinson, Johnston, Tilt, who Hurst apparently wanted to sign, didn't he? Evans and Ojo, Solomon Otterbohr, Ashgard, which apparently is a Norse myth that's used in the Thor franchise, as I found out.
From, I think.
Oh, is it? Okay, there you go. No idea. Lang, I thought Lang would play up top, but I'm sure we got heat maps proving that Keane was probably the furthest forward, and Lang played off him. Let me I'll just talk over my view of the first half, and then we'll get your guys' idea. I thought there was one thing that was noticeable that, and to use the sort of parlance that we get told every week, tippy tapping it about and all this. We weren't doing that. We were going sort of quite direct and trying to get Norwood to turn their centre halves, etc. I suppose the idea was to get Kane Vincent-Young and Stephen Ward. Feels a little bit unbalanced to even say, doesn't it? Quite high, but again, the three off the front were a little bit anonymous. Oh. It felt like Judge's best work was done, kind of closing down in a defensive sense. And best chance of the first half, Lang comes in off the left and pokes it into Keane. Good block by Enciala in that one. So no real. I don't think Wigan had a shot on goal, by the literal definition of the stats. But neither did. Well, I mean, we had a couple, but it was a Norwood trickler that got deflected off Sears, and
Norwood had the header, didn't he, when he was playing? He collided with the keeper, which was unlucky actually. I mean, that looked a foul to me. I looked clear. He really took him out there, but
But little did I know that we would get worse in the second half, and Wigan would get better. Rich, you go first. What was your take on the first half?
Yeah, it's interesting. You mentioned the Norwood chance early on, because I was thinking, if I'm Paul Cook, one of the things I'm going to do for a team that doesn't create too many chances is encourage them to shoot a little bit more. And Norwood's on the kind of, he's just outside the 18-yard box, has the go, doesn't get much power in it. And I thought, here we go, maybe that's something that we've worked on during the week, and that was pretty much it after that. And Edwards pretty anonymous down the right. It just didn't seem to work for me, and it felt like two pretty mediocre teams cancelling each other out. And I guess there's the chance towards the end of the first half where Vincent Young gets in behind and kind of I think is kind of shown outside, and I think tries to get a shot on goal. It's an acute angle. There just wasn't any kind of improvement to our play, and the personnel changes. Vincent Young aside, I think he contributed a little bit, but short-lived. There wasn't a huge amount to be excited about. I think the kind of the sofa score dominance meter thingy showed that we had a little bit more of the ball, and maybe a little bit more of the intent.
Create anything, though,
but there wasn't anything concrete, was there, guys?
But Dave, what confuses me, right, is if there's a sense, and this is what we wanted. We all brought out that evidence of Lambert trying to play through the thirds and not being able to coach it, and the players not being able to do it. And okay, fine, we have to swallow our pride with a few things we said in the McCarthy era about playing the channels and getting the defenders on the turn. But if that's been asked, then surely the three off the front need to get close to, if you're going to do that. And then it felt okay. We've got this isolated forward with not much kind of support with it. It felt like the clear seeming instruction was then in contradiction to what the three off the front were doing, Dave.
Just nowhere near him. Absolutely nowhere near him. And the time and time again, that was a tactic all game where Holy would collect the ball and just launch it every single time. And obviously, as instructed, I mean, a total opposite. If you think going back to the Lambert era, start of the season, where we bemoaning the 30 or 40 passes around about our penalty box and in our half before we remotely pay it forward. I mean, he was just launching it, and it was just nothing because they weren't getting up. Even if Norwood did win anything or get a touch on anything, there was no one close enough to win the second ball off Norwood, which I guess was the tactic. And then ironically, as you said, the one time that Vincent Young, I thought did okay, to be fair, when he did get forward and lung busting run, got in the penalty area, well, transpires that he's twitched his pinged his hamstring.
Let's go on to that, Dave, because in our wibbly wobbly I follow coverage, out we come for the second half, and the big comeback only lasts 45 minutes for Kane Vincent Young. Yeah. But Dave, what do we know about this? Is this a
No, I don't. All I know is I haven't heard anyone say anything about it. So I assume if it's hamstring, then he'll have a bit like Downs the other week. He'll have a scan. Now Downs was grade 2 or 3 or something like that.
That's
so
if
Downs
it's a tear.
It might not be a tear. Yeah, it might be.
Cook said problem.
Okay. So it might be a strain. Problem. It may well be a strain.
I bloody hope.
Who knows? He may be out. He may be out for the next, 2 games, which are obviously Friday and Monday. So hopefully that's all it is. If it's a tear, it's a month, isn't it? It is a month. With his injury record, you're probably going to say if it's a tear, he's out. He's done for the season. I don't know.
Anywhere else, Dave, isn't it? Not at Ipswich.
It just happens to us, doesn't it? Time and time again. We said the other week, that first half against Plymouth was the first time I've really seen Downs and Dazelle, dovetail together, and really Downs is really getting in amongst them. And okay, Plymouth were awful that first half, but I think it was due a lot to the pressure we were putting them under. And Downs was superb that first, and then half an hour hamstring, 6 weeks. You couldn't bloody make it up. Really, you really couldn't make it up. But yeah, he'll be a miss. Well, he'll be a miss. We haven't had him, have we, for God's sake? But, it's just, feel for the boy, really. Feel for the lad. And, then, will we then look at Cook and think, well, really, should he have? Okay, it's a totally unrelated injury, but, were we rushing him back a bit? And let's face it, he wouldn't have been back.
if this is what we want, and we've got a manager
play
who's going to raise the standards now,
Play
then
best
you know,
players.
in going to what you two have just said about Downs, play your best players. And
You got to play your best players.
if the club as an entity can't regularly get the players on the pitch for an entire season without them, you know, being out for swathes of time, then that's an issue that's above aside what Paul Cook is.
That's an issue the club has had. That's a recurring issue the club has had for seasons, isn't it?
Possibly. So my view, Rich, as we went into the second half, is that Wigan came out quite lively, and that game state then kind of stuck for the rest of the game. Big chance for Ojo. He should score. Keane plays a lovely ball around the corner, and
snatches it.
I know I yell every week on this pod. They're League One players. It was a very League One finish as he goes clear.
I think Schmodic scored a goal from a very similar position with his right foot for Peterborough against Accrington on Saturday as well. The issue for Ojo is he's inside of his boot. He's hit it with. He's put spin on. He's curled the ball outwards, and he's hitting it across the far post when he really probably should stick his laces through it, which is exactly what Schmodic did.
How many goals do you see Schmodic score like that? I've seen him score 3 or 4 like that. He just doesn't mess with it. Just absolutely hammers it. Gets his laces through it. Doesn't
I think this is a difference.
Tell you what, I was glad it fell to him and not that. I quite rated that Lang. He was really, he was useful. I thought, he led. Yeah, he gave Chambers led him a merry dance at times, I thought.
So that was the best chance of the second half. We get the 3 off the front, the anonymous 3 off the front, replaced one at a time. Harrop ends up down the left, Jackson in the 10, Dobra down the right. There's a nice little dink over by Dobra for Dazelle, and it feels like Norwood's just trying to smash it at the goal. You can kind of understand he's on a narrow angle and he's had no service the entire game. And then bit of a heart in mouth towards the end. Lang gets in behind Chambers, and Chambers is in that crap. If I touch him now, he's down, and it's a penalty. And then I think the frustration at the end in the last 10 minutes, we got really loose defensively. There were tackles going in that, at least for the first half or the first hour or whatever, we had a decent shape and, players weren't exposed. And then I'm seeing Ward diving in and Chambers getting done on the outside, and
Clearly having to gallop out to head the ball clear.
Right. And we got loose towards the end of that. And my conclusion, Rich, is that if I'm a Wigan fan, I'm like, okay, great, we drew, we kept the clean sheet, but we should have won, right?
I think that's probably fair enough. And given the expectation would be, I was going to say the playoff team, but the team in mid-table to come and assert themselves, is a phrase I keep using. I think I'd be a bit disappointed to have probably the most clear-cut chance and not take it and not take the points. I was going to say the second half for me is just punctuated by wasted set piece after set piece. Norwood did some really amazing work to win some really 50-50-ish kind of free kicks. I think Dobra starts getting a few as well. And we just queue up. Harrop or Dazelle queue up, do exactly the same thing time and time again.
Rich, those set plays were so bad, I thought Martin Waghorn was back for a minute. Seriously.
Well, I was just going to mention Martin Waghorn, actually, because I tweeted today about our inability and for 6 years to not score any goals. And I was thinking back to that 17-18 season where we got 57 goals in 46 games.
Well,
Probably the last 30% of them were Waghorn set plays, or Waghorn scoring them, them himself. And we'll go on to this. This club, for years, give or take, what you've called, Dave, Murphy's sort of season in a million, where we scored 72 goals, which is hardly the.
Well, he got 53, didn't he, or whatever he got? Yeah,
it's so royal. But this club and these players, a lot of them have gone through the last 4 managers. We tweeted that as well.
Absolutely,
today,
fire, isn't it?
We don't make any chances, and we don't score goals for 6 seasons, Dave. Since we've been doing the fucking podcast.
We had that season after, didn't we? Then we had the Lawrence season where we didn't score loads of goals, but when we did score
Premier League loanee, isn't it?
But when we did score a goal, and verily it was a fucking ripper, wasn't it, from Lawrence? It was incredible goals. So we had that, but we've had precious little. I mean, the first season we did the pod, obviously we had Fraser, and that was good for a while. And you say the start of that 17-18 where, the great game at Millwall, 4 there, 5 at home to Sunderland. You think, right, we're on our way, really are on our way here. And then,
Dave, do you remember our XG at the start of that season?
No,
we were scoring everything. We were scoring everything. So, Richard, the last 256 league games, 1.08 goals per game. This is a 6-year problem of this club and 4 different managers with some of the same players not being able to produce football that creates chances and score goals. 6 years, 4 different managers.
But you can score goals in different... We're crap
ways.
At scoring lots of different types of chances as well. We stopped scoring from set... that run of wins under Gill, Accrington, I'm thinking, was Hull a victory from a set piece. We scored... We didn't create a huge amount else, but scored from a set piece, and that got us the points. I'm just totally flabbergasted that we haven't figured out, right, this is a team that can't create chances organically because we haven't got the right players. So let's work on set pieces and take good free kicks and corners, and maybe we'll score a few from them.
And those free kicks and corners, just so airy fairy. Put him in no. And if they are put him with pace, they hit the first defender, or it's just so.
But the frustrating thing about all of this conversation, it's very easy to boil football down to set plays, but to look at it over the 6-year period, Mick had got to the point at the end of his tenure where all he had was Martin Waghorn and set plays. And in the 6 years preceding, there's or the 6 seasons since. Okay, sorry, I'm including a couple of. In fact, I'm including Mick's last 3 seasons there. But nothing has moved forward in that regard in terms of pattern. Again, here we go. Ramble. Pattern of play, scoring goals, blah blah blah. Ad infinitum, and it feels like we go from moaning at the owner to moaning at the manager to moaning at the players, and we cycle as fans. And that's fine. Look, we're all frustrated because we've been rubbish for years, and we just, you want somewhere to point the finger at, and it feels like now we're back in, Dave, moaning at the players.
Ben, we just. We said about set plays, we're so easy to defend. We're just so easy to play against. We must be so easy to set up and play against us because we've got nothing. Absolutely.
Look at Portsmouth last week, Dave. Cowley probably said to them, right, just hold tight for the first half.
Exactly.
They'll tire out.
Exactly
They'll also make a mistake for you.
And we'll pick them off.
Boys, it's Spurs. The Alex Ferguson team tour.
I know, and we'll pick them off. And exactly, yesterday, you're right. And Wigan could have done exactly the same with a bit of cool headedness around the box. Yeah, we should have lost that game yesterday. Sorry,
I'm getting very frustrated.
But your point on the players,
boiling.
Just very quick, is I guess just to kind of flip the point around a little bit. It's not those specific players' fault that they've been recruited and played in the team by Hurst, Lambert and Cook's options are obviously limited now. I honestly think that the recruitment is a factor here as well. You can't always have a Waghorn, you can't always have a Lawrence. No. But I just think there's just too much of the wrong kind of player. The kind of, I said this on Suffolk and felt bad about it, but the introverted kind of creative central midfielder who doesn't score many goals, might have good kind of theoretical XA or something like that, but isn't going to ping you one from 20 yards when, it's going to sound like a broken record.
In the last 3
Matt Holland
minutes,
or Jim Jordan or Miller would just ping one, wouldn't they? If the game's not going for you, we don't even shoot from range to speculate.
There you go. Look, in the last 3 minutes, we've mentioned 10 or 15 things. We've mentioned training. We've mentioned set plays. We've mentioned chance creation. We've mentioned pattern of play. We've mentioned recruitment. We've mentioned attitude of players. We can probably mention absence of owner. This is not any one thing, is it? This is a
Aside
whole
from that,
smorgasbord of bullshit, isn't it? You know,
aside
when
from that, we've got
nothing is
quite a
done
lot.
well.
We've got quite a lot going for us aside from that, haven't we? Oh, it's shite!
Oh no! Oh dear! But
This is going back to
God,
Huddersfield of about 4 seasons ago, where we
it's
completely
worse
lose the
than
plot
that,
and said,
Dave.
"Dave,
At least we had McCarthy kind of, you know,
We're in
could
League
do
One.
in
We're
game
shit in League
stuff.
One.
But do
to
you
get
agree,
some
though? Is it now got to the point where just let's almost... But again, the frustrating thing is still within touching. This is the whole bloody frustrating thing that these other clubs around us don't
League
just
One's
keep...
rubbish,
League
Dave.
One's
It's
crap, isn't it?
awful. It's rubbish. Hull, when we played Hull the other... Look, Hull,
Beat
how
them
the hell
away.
are
They're top of the
how the hell
league.
are Hull? They're awful. They're terrible when we played them, weren't they? We went there and beat them 1-0. Could have been... They didn't even barely created a chance. And you think... the whole division is
Oh my
absolutely...
God!
We're a very average team in a very, very poor division, and that's the saddest thing for me. Really is.
Standards and the psychology and the years of losing mentality. And
This is what
oh
this is what it is, and that goes well. We'll say right through the club. Hopefully, it doesn't, because we must mention at this stage another great win for the under-18s yesterday through to the FA Youth Cup 5th round. Absolutely brilliant. So it doesn't quite run right through the club, but my God, at first team level, holy crap! It's
dear,
sad, mate. It's very, for me, and all of we're all, long-term, long-standing supporters. It's
long
sad,
suffering.
sad. Yeah, long suffering. It's sad, mate. It's a sad state of affairs at the moment, and look, I'm now coming round to the fact that look, he's got to have an absolute massive, almost clear the decks in the summer. Get his players in, and we kick on again. And look, if it's in League One, then so be it. It's likely to be in League One, because can you honestly see us a change in fortune? Is there any inkling of a change? Not a change in fortune, of a continuity of performance.
Dave, I'm moving away from they're not good enough, clear them out, to just start afresh. Even if they are good enough, do you know what I mean, Rich? Even if they are good enough, and like we think Dazell's good enough, and Chambers has played years at higher level. No, but do you know what I mean? There's players we think could do a job, but it just feels like this kind of losing mentality and poor standards,
there's no. And I know we've harped on about this, and you looked at it yesterday. There's no leader in the. There's no leader. There's no leaders in the club. Harry used to, and quite right, Harry from Bath. Love, God bless Harry. Used to talk about partnerships in the team, and you struggle. You look at it now, and you really, really struggle with it. And there's no lead. You need someone like we harped on about him, like a Magilton in midfield. Someone like him setting the standards. Give me the ball, set the standards, balling a player around when he takes the wrong option, plays the wrong pass. We've just got no one there now. And, I feel that, I feel a bit for Chambers. Chambers obviously coming to the end of his career now, 34, 35. And the saddest thing for me there is you still read, and this says a hell of a lot about the man, that he's still the fittest guy at the club. I mean, what does that say? Just
not a lot. And
no,
Richard,
you're right, it's standards.
Richard, I think we all hoped that, and I think this is true, that Lambert had coached these players very poorly, and we all hoped that either a combination of the fact that they were underperforming, the players, the fact that the manager had coached them poorly, and we were going to get this new guy who, we still think is a very highly qualified manager, certainly in terms of what he's done in recent times, as opposed to a Lambert, but it's just not happened, has it, Rich?
No, and I think we're all kind of reaching a similar conclusion, which is start again. And if you want a manager at this level to rebuild a team with a clear image and a pattern of play, then Paul Cook is exactly the right man to do it. The trouble I have is Ipswich Town is half-arse FC in everything we do, and I can just imagine there are players who are marginal about you keep on. So, for example, Alan Judge or Guion Edwards, two players out of contract, on paper should be contributing much more than they do. We talked about Major, and Alan Judge has got that in his locker to be, give me the ball, I will make something happen. He doesn't, and I just fear that we'll have the opportunity to kind of purge a lot of the stench of defeat and underperformance out of the squad and we'll bottle it. We'll kind of, what if we can't get 10 deals through the door? And and I think we'll end up keeping a lot more players than maybe the likes of us and everyone else think, because we just don't back ourselves. If Paul Cook is backed in the summer, and I don't mean
with
give him $1 million
700 players out of contract,
there's loads of players out. Exactly right. Loads of players out of contract. Cook can spot a player. Again, that's another positive from the pod that Mikey and the guys did. We just got to back Paul Cook. But the trouble is we've got 10 matches, is it, remaining or whatever? We've got to sit through and endure against mediocre opposition as well, which at least we're not going to get turned over by anyone, but we're going to have games like Saturday, aren't we?
Dave?
No, I disagree. I think no, it's beyond crap. It's beyond crap. I don't know what that term is, but beyond crap. I think we've just got to endure more of it. Bristol Rovers. You think Bristol Rovers at home, then we've got Rochdale away. I just think we've got to endure more of it. I just cannot see it turning around this season. Can you? Anytime soon? I just can't.
Well, hopefully, possible consecutive 11th place finishes will stop the higher ups, the higher up singular thinking, okay, we can. I'll just paper over these cracks and get us back to the championship. Then we'll fix everything. Maybe consecutive 11th place finishes might be. Oh God,
I'm not sure.
We need to hit the reset button.
Evans was there on Saturday. I mean, what if you're still got a little strand of that takeover? It sounds like it's stalled and maybe not happening. If I'm Marcus Evans sat in Wigan watching a team that I own and a new manager that I've just recruited kind of put out that performance, I'm kind of thinking, and I'm not a football fan anyway, what's the point? Why
Rich, think of the hassle. Think of the hassle of all of those new contracts he's going to negotiate at the start of next season.
The target is back on him now, because of if everyone's got, the most viewed show I think that we've done this season was the Takeover one or the Lambert out one, but the Takeover one, an amount of buzz and excitement that built around the Takeover possibly happening in Paul Cook. Now we've got Paul Cook and reality's dawning for him, but the Takeover is the only thing we had. I think there'll be a lot of people who just won't renew season tickets if Marcus Evans
is coming up as a question. We probably should get the questions. Good stuff, guys. Sorry, we went over into that, but
therapy.
There's therapy needed. Elsewhere in the table, David's favourite team, Hull, draw at Peterborough. Hull draw. Peterborough win 7-0, and Sunderland closing on the top spot as well with a win. Lincoln, and this is frustrating because it's kind of after the effect makes our draw against them look worse. Lincoln are kind of look like they're playing their way out of the automatic race. Pompey get their 2 for 2. And then, maddeningly, between 6th and 11th, only Oxford won. And that plays into this narrative of how bad this all is. That had we have won, I don't know, broken away in the 85th minute and, or actually
scored
stuck a set play in, scored straight from a corner, exactly, we'd be right on the periphery of those
goal difference.
With Bristol Rovers and Rochdale to come, which are winnable.
Fill your boots, boys.
Let's go to some questions there. How we do? We're okay. We're okay for time. This is Ian. We'll go to Richard with this one. We have seen these players individually and collectively play much better. Is it fatigue, physical, or perhaps mentally? Surely Paul Cook will need to introduce a new strategy of psychology. We've touched on this, Richard. How the hell do you turn around for players that are already here and players that we might want to be here? The idea of, you weren't going to go to Ipswich. I mean, they'll pay you nicely, but you're not going to do anything, are you? How do we turn around the psychology of the whole club, including the fans, the higher ups, and all the players?
I don't know. That's a really big question, isn't it? I mean, the first thing is having the right. Is having the right. Paul Cook is the focal point, and the only solace that I take from his first few weeks is he's saying exactly the same stuff that all of us are saying, and he's the one who can affect it most. So in terms of the next few weeks and stuff like that, if players aren't going to raise the games either because they've got professional pride or because they want a contract with us or someone else, then get rid of them. I'd rather see our under 23s or under 18s get a chance than someone who's probably, who's thinking I'm on the beach or I'm somewhere else. So, look, Paul Cook is the right manager. And I think we've just got to trust that he sets that bar. It sounds like he set that bar in training this week and hardly anyone has hit it. So, and he's said he's been disappointed with that. And his post-match on Saturday was pretty pointed as well, albeit he wouldn't do a Paul Hurst and chuck the players under the bus. So I'm trusting Cook.
We are actually. I want to. That's a good that you've finished with that, because I want to talk about Paul Hurst. Actually, Tim, I think he asked somewhat facetiously, but it is relevant. Given Cook has appeared to make no discernible difference to the team, do any of you feel differently towards Lambert? Love the show. Look, Dave, sorry, Tim, can I put my own spin on that? Why is it we go to the next manager and all of a sudden we feel sorry for the previous one? And yes, okay, I saw Lambert's teams and they were really badly set up and really badly coached. I understand that. But to what Richard just said, why are we here? It was lovely. I was on holiday in France and I watched his Exeter press conference and I'm like, oh, wow. He's going to clean out here. And it totally backfired and he was sacked in 16 games. Why are we back, Dave, and let's be honest, and I'm not piling in on any of the players, some of the same players that were called out by Paul Hurst have just been called out by Paul Cook as well. Why are we back here? That was the summer of 2018. Why are we back here coming on for the summer of 2021?
I think it just sums up the general malaise at the club, that those players are still here and now are underperforming in League One. At least back then they were underperforming in the Championship, but now underperforming at League One level. I think it just says a lot about the club, doesn't it? Really? Yeah, that these players just haven't been moved on or just haven't been improved in any way.
And let's be honest, if we want to be revisionist about Paul Lambert, this is his fault. 2 and a bit seasons. Yeah, the fact we're not coached, the fact we can't create chances, the fact we're not fit is entirely down to him. Yeah. So the idea that Paul Lambert now looks, all the players clearly weren't working for Paul Lambert. Paul Lambert could have kicked this squad into shape or kicked players out if he wanted to, and he didn't do it.
He tried the opposite tack of Paul Hurst, didn't he? And he
Oh, love me. Oh, love me.
Pathetic.
Had to get that, would it?
We've got one from Alistair. Richard, I'll give you this one. I have to say I'm a bit concerned that without a takeover, he could get frustrated. Go on, let's play proper doomsday stuff here. What happens if the takeover doesn't occur and Mr. Paul Cook and Mr. Marcus Evans butt heads over transfers in the summer, assuming we didn't get promoted in the playoffs?
Feels like Paul Cook at least has some professional pride if the squad don't. So I think he would try his best, but he would probably, I suspect, I assume he's got an agent or representation, be trying to find a move somewhere else, wouldn't he? And is he on a 2.5-year contract? I think it is.
I think so.
I mean, if you're talking doomsday scenarios, Paul Cook can resign, can't he? If he can walk away. Lambert didn't do it because he was going to get a big chunky payoff. Paul Cook could resign and just say, this is not for me.
He walked from Wigan, didn't he? He walked from Wigan.
Yeah, that was the savvy. I don't want to call
of course, but
clinical in it. That was the right thing to do.
Obviously, a man of principles, and you wonder, when he was employed, a month ago, a month ago, is it now? Just how much of if there was a perceived takeover, how much that was sold to him or otherwise.
Stop it. Dave, one more. This is Pete. You guys touched on this briefly. What is the outlook for season ticket sales next season? And I mean, let's take this as a personal thing. I pay for a season ticket for our hosts to go to watch Ipswich games when they do shows, and most of our team have got season tickets, and my brain is genuinely going, even though we run the pod. Well, they're probably not even going to want the seats. You know, Dave might sit upstairs if he's, you know, son's not with him or whatever, or Rich might be fed up at the North Stand for one day and, you know, head up there. But
there's a case in point. My Kieran, who's staunch, you know, has been going with me since 22 now. Has been going with me since he's about 8 or 9. He's down in tools next season. He's not getting a season ticket next season.
What, that's decided?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, at the moment he's sort of set. Yeah. He's watching the games with us on iFollow and stuff like that. But he's seen nothing. He's other than he's one of that generation. Other than the Murphy season that we spoke about, he's seen absolutely nothing. So, like, his first games was what we're talking about, 2008. So he's seen bugger all, really. So yeah, kind of sad. I think I've heard a lot. I mean, you hear this every season, don't you? Right? That's it. You know, you hear the callers on Radio Suffolk, and that's it. You know, no more season ticket.
10,000 are sold, aren't they?
And still 10,000. Supposedly, still 10,000 are sold. So, I think it's going to be a tough. It's going to certainly be a tough sell. It's going to be interesting to see those season ticket, what spin they put on those this season. That's for sure.
What spin would you?
Project Rebuild.
Start afresh.
Hashtag a new era.
Ready, steady, cook.
Reset button. And the other thing they've got to figure out, Dave, and this came up in the kind of fans forum minutes that were published, is a lot of season ticket, and I include myself, and I assume you guys are the same with the ones we've got. We bought season tickets on kind of goodwill to support the club during pandemic, and the refund situation is also a factor. If it feels like we're getting short-changed for whatever experience we had this season, then people are not going to stick around. They won't put up for next season. And
Richard, the first thing front and centre in the season ticket renewals will be, if you kept your season ticket going through this season, there'll be some kind of
sure, you think so? Some
kind of
we'll let you lift the trophy when
we'll let you lift the pizza trophy when we win it at Wembley.
You make some stupid fatuous promises that you don't have to keep, because you can be on the bus when we win the league next season. It's like, good one.
It's going to be worrying though. Let's assume 11th. Say we finish 11th again, and a load of players leaving out of contract. And you know that even with COVID, I mean, we're going to finish at the normal week in May, all being well, and then we've got the Euros as well. I mean, that's probably the best bet for season ticket sales. England get to the finals of the Euros, and everyone loves football and goes and buys a season ticket.
Or you get 10,000 fans in the ground for the start of the season, because a lot of people would, Joe was
just
saying
to be back,
just to be in the stadium and all that kind of stuff. Yeah,
it's going to be Pete's question. It's going to be a hard old sell, right? Let's a hard old sell is this podcast at the moment. We thank you so much.
I was thinking, if we finish 11th next season, when do we walk away from the podcast?
But we thank you so much for listening. And
I think nowhere.
Richard, you're working on getting shout outs for the people who've supported us via
so if you stick around for the end of the video, you hear my I tried to be as cheery as I could in the voiceover, but if people have kindly donated via Acast, and I know some folks have done the super chat on YouTube during the live shows, which again really appreciated that. I can't easily log the names for those, so there's a guy called Rod and Paul Westlake, I think, and maybe Bits has done it a few times, so we'll try and sort that out. But thank you to those of you done via Acast. You can still do that. There's a Mikey voiceover that explains how to do that. Your names will appear at the end of the closing titles.
So we thank you all for sticking with us, and like David says, there's a joke about wrestling fans that they'll moan and moan and moan, and they'll say, I'm not gonna watch until next week when I'm watching again, and no one ever goes anywhere. Just quickly, speaking of no one ever going anywhere, Bristol Rovers at home, 4 straight defeats. Joey Barton getting chippy in press conferences. Not scored in the past 3 games. Second bottom of the league. Sounds like a home win, doesn't it?
0-0 draw written all over it.
Exactly right. Get on the 0-0 train. Did Joey Barton blame Bristol Rovers' previous managers as well in that?
I think he did. Yeah.
If I'm Paul Cook, I mean, I'm almost tempted to do that as well if I'm Paul Cook, but probably just to curry some favour,
Oh dear. So there's every chance we could be sat here on what we got, 55
point off the playoffs.
How many? Let me just bring the league table up really.
Yeah, 55.
Really quickly. 55. Yeah, 58. We could have 58 points, and there's always that. There's always that chance of a mad Blackpool-esque run. But
it's that same old stance, isn't it? It's the hope that kills you with us, isn't it? Every time.
It is the hope.
If these teams around us have kept bloody winning, so we're like 6 or 7 points, you just park the playoffs. Can't just park it there now, and let's just move on. Get this season over with. Let Cook work his magic. Hopefully in the transfer market or whatever, and let's just start again. But while the hope's still there, it's just that chink of light, isn't it? And I don't know what I think it dropped, and it did it not. I think Joe was putting some percentages out there of what was it? I don't know. Was it 30?
Oh, Chris Rand.
Chris Rand, sorry.
Live, I think.
Yeah. He was putting it, and it was, I don't know, this time last week, was it, or before the Pompey game, was it like 40% or something like that? We were going to make the playoffs, and now it's down to, I don't know, 20, or I don't know what it is.
Remember, that's purely statistical, and there's no actual knowing kind of predictive knowledge.
I just wanted to mention for people who are listening on the podcast feed, I just wanted to remark that there was a bit where Dave said a point off the playoffs and then shook his head. I didn't think those two things, those two actions matched.
Well, you have to say, but that's the thing. It's the hope. It's the hope that kills you and keeps you just. Oh, we might though. For how crap we are, there's still that chance, but.
Right,
something fairly radical has got to change, and we're just not going to score enough goals, are we?
I think that'll do for us. Hopefully, we can talk about a 5-0 win next week. Right, lots and lots of plugs. We've plugged Acast support. Obviously, go across to YouTube, and you can see midweek games. We tend to be live after the games, and we'll be reviewing where we're going to put live stuff next season. So go and subscribe over there. Acast. Twitter at Blue Monday ITFC, and of course, favorite chicken. Blue BM20 get 20% off favorite chicken. They are our sponsors until the end of the season. And if you guys buy enough bloody chicken, they'll sponsor us again next season as well. So go and buy some chicken, even if you're not going to eat it. Just go and buy it. It's very nice, though. Very, very nice. And you can follow me at Benjamin Bloom on Twitter. Do lots of championship stuff still if we ever get there again. And we're going to be doing England in the Euros. So if you want to follow along there. Richard, can you plug the goal machine?
Sure, I'll plug whatever you want, Ben. Goal machine, hashtag ITFC goal machine. If you go to my Twitter at Ipswich, I've now pinned it. There is now a directory of all of the goals I've ever posted, and sometimes Statman posts some on this day stuff as well. So if you want to remember when we could score goals, and there are now 176 posts, and some of them have got multiples in there as well. So there are goals on the internet if you go looking for them. So you can find that on my Twitter. I also just thought I'd mention two other things. One is the Terrace. We've got a little association with them. I'll retweet the link if you want to buy some cool stuff. I think they've got like a really chunky mug that they've just released that you can get, but ITFC mugs, mouse mats. If you use our link to make a purchase.
Do they sell goals, Richard?
No, I couldn't come up with
the goals weigh, Dave.
Oh, we've had this, haven't we? How much the goals weigh? We've had this, don't we? Did we ever find the form? Did someone not give us a formula for that? I'm sure. But do you remember when we first set up the pod? Who was the guy? Who was the academic that used to?
You used to talk about sheer weight of goals a lot.
Sheer weight of goals, and he actually did. I'm sure he did. He did a mathematical sort of formula of how a goal is weighed. It was pretty.
Didn't someone send you the weight of an actual goal net with the posts in it and stuff? That's the weight of a goal.
Something to do with the velocity of shot, and I don't know.
It's XG, isn't it? But we'll tweet out a link so you can, if you want to make yourself feel better by buying some stuff, then use our link on the Terrace, and we get a little bit of a kickback from that. And also, Bristol Rovers, I think we'll try and do a live show for that at full time. We'll probably
Good Friday,
give ourselves a bit of a break, and then maybe as a special treat on Easter Monday. Just because Jesus has risen from the dead or something, and we
don't mention Jesus, because then people start calling me bloody Jesus, don't they?
Yeah,
pathetic.
We might do this kind of podcast,
or Dave Grohl.
Yeah, there you go. Did you see the Dave Grohl kettle, by the way?
What would you prefer? Dave Grohl or Jesus?
Ben, generally, yeah.
Well,
funnily
yeah,
enough,
okay.
funnily enough, Dave, yeah.
We'll
Dave,
tweet out stuff.
All the cyclists, of course, yeah. Whose name escapes me at the moment, yeah.
Random man with long hair, and at Ipswich on Twitter, of course. David, plug your best mate Russell Osman. Go on.
Yeah, no, did the chat with Russell Osman a couple of 3 weeks ago. That was very, very good. Although I wish I'd have asked him about that Worthington goal though. But so just slipped my mind. How do you feel when you were mugged off? Yeah. How do you feel when you were mugged off by Frank that day? But
hung up the call.
just as well I didn't. So no, that's out there at the moment. It's got some pretty good views, some pretty good comments on that. Although I did get one comment about he thought I was getting too excited and talking over my guest, which I apologise for. But hey, look, it was pretty much a summary of the 80-81 season, so I apologise for that. So no, that's out there. And no, do you know what has kept me sane this weekend, Ben? I know I've been doing a little bit of, we won't plug, it's not a plug, but I'm doing a little bit of work for you, and there was one or two particular games in that little segue of games that you sent me, which has certainly kept my interest up in football this weekend. Yeah, I won't say. I'll just say Kevin Keegan and leave it at that.
We like to talk about Kevin Keegan, don't we?
We
right.
do.
I think we're there. Hopefully, we haven't got too vexed or too mocking. But yeah, it's just after, like you said, Rich, after all of that hope, and then the new manager, and now here we are. But there you go. I'm sure us being football fans and what football fans are, a couple of wins and we'll be all excitable again. So thank you very, very much for listening and watching. Subscribe on YouTube, etc. And buy some chicken and use the promo code BM20 favourite chicken to get you a 20% off. What I'd like to do, and this has never been done on the podcast, is I'm going to go 1, 2, 3 with my fingers. I think we should all say crap at the same time. Yeah? You ready for it? Here we go. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Crap!
Thanks for watching or listening to the Blue Monday podcast. And thanks to those of you who have kindly supported the channel via Acast or YouTube donations. You can follow us at the usual places on social media, and don't forget to subscribe so that you get our new shows first.